Good Sunday morning. Hello, hello. Look at all these smiling faces. Lots of new faces this morning. If you would be so inclined, since it is a beautiful morning, if you choose, if you are new to the building, can you let out a whoop whoop? All right, thank you for indulging me. Okay, let's do it. So if you want to whoop whoop, let's whoop whoop. Notice I stepped away from the mic. Thank you very much. My name is Heather Kistner. I am a member here at Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm also a board member and congregational president, and it is my privilege to be here to deliver the announcements and welcome you to our Sunday morning service. Hello to all of you here present and also online. We are welcoming you to this morning. Oh, the red light was there and now it's there, so hello everyone. If you have small ones or not so small ones, or you yourself want to enjoy the service with making all of the little noises and not so little noises, we do welcome those little noises. If you would be more comfortable viewing and listening to the service in a glassed-in room in the back where Ted is, please make yourself comfortable in that room. There is some toys and such, and you will enjoy the service just as much there as you would out here. We welcome you wherever you have been, whoever you are, wherever you are going. We welcome everyone here to our space as Unitarian Universalists. I have a couple announcements. The Adult RE Committee and the Beloved Community Program invite you to today's Wait a Minute session. Wait a minute. It's a session that you can attend, Presence as a Spiritual Practice. Spiritual care team members Mebby Jackson and Carolyn Rogers will start us off with their insights as we explore this great gift that we give one another. It will be at 12:30 in the Lizzie Crozier French Room. That is the large room right to your left as you entered the church building this morning. And we have another announcement. Good morning, Jasper. Jasper is going to come up. He is part of the middle school youth group team. And he has some exciting news to report on a wonderful thing that group did most recently. Come on up, Jasper.
Many thanks to all those who participated in the TVUUC entry during December. The middle school youth group set up our tree and advertised it. The congregation donated dozens of hats, scarves, mittens, gloves, coats, and jackets. Then, Catherine Farmer-Loya spread our love just in time for the frigid temperatures of January by taking a large bin to the Volunteer Ministry Center, a large bag to one of those local warming centers, and 3 bags of things, including the much-needed children's sizes, to Bridge Refugee Services. Thanks again to everyone who helped keep our community warm. Thank you.
Excellent job, Jasper. Thank you very much for that announcement. I also want to add that if you do not receive our weekly newsletter, we do have a weekly newsletter, and it is filled with all sorts of information. I will note that this next Monday, tomorrow, is our monthly board meeting. I make reference to it here because it had a date change. It was going to be last week. So any and all are welcome to attend. We also try to have the first 10 to 15 minutes of each board meeting open to anyone that would like to come and share a few words. So If you'd like to, we do hold that here in person, and we also have that available online. It is tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. Sorry, guys, I had a delay in my thought. Behind me, I have Claudia Presley, who would like to come up and make an announcement.
We didn't quite have our stage cues right there. Anyway, my name is Claudia Presley, and I'm the Director of Finance and Operations here at TVUUC. I'm here today to tell you that today is a designated offering Sunday. So a little bit later in the service, there will be offering baskets that will be passed through the sanctuary. If you're watching online, you could give then. You could give now if you're watching online. You can even give tonight if you're watching online. But there are multiple ways to give. Offering baskets here in the sanctuary. There's a giving kiosk out in the lobby. There's also a couple of QR codes that are strategically placed around the building. If you click on those, it'll take you to our secure giving site. A designated offering Sunday means that 100% of anything you give today that is not marked as a pledge goes to that organization. So now, Reverend Chris Buice is going to come and tell you about the organization that's been selected for this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
So today, the organization we're going to support through our offering is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, and I want to give a shout out to Gordon Gibson and Lance Picold, who've had big leadership roles in that organization. If you want to support public schools and oppose vouchers, if you want an honest look at history instead of censorship in our schools, if you want freedom instead of banned books, if you want civil rights for every person of every race, of every gender or sexual orientation, I invite you to give generously to the work of the NAACP.
All right, at this time, we would like to ask everyone to silence their electronic devices as we enter into worship.
Silvio Rodriguez, a Cuban singer-songwriter and founder of the Nueva Trova movement, has been a vital voice for justice and liberation, using his music to inspire social change across Latin America and beyond. His poetic lyrics and haunting melodies address themes of equality, human dignity, and resistance to oppression, making his work a rallying cry for marginalized communities. The poetry in Vamos a Andar is something like this. We're gonna go in verse and vibrant life, building a home where bread and love abide, ending all selfishness, so that in turn there will be no loneliness. There's a part for you to sing in this opening version. The words are Vamos a Andar, the title, and then Para Llegar. We're gonna go until we get there, or we're gonna strive till we arrive. So when we start singing that, I hope you'll join in with us. Vamos a andar para llegar.
Vamos a andar inmerso y vida tintos, levando el recinto del pan y la verdad. Vamos a andar matando el egoísmo para que por lo mismo reviva la amistad. Vamos a andar uniendo al poderoso, alzando al perezoso, sumando a las demás. Vamos a andar con todas las banderas, trenzada de manera que no haya soledad, que no haya soledad, que no haya soledad, que no haya soledad. Vamos a andar para llegar a la vida. En verso y vida tintos, levantando el recinto del pan y la verdad, matando el egoísmo para que por lo mismo reviva la amistad, uniendo al poderoso, alzando al perezoso, sumando a los demás, con todas las banderas, trenzada de manera que no haya soledad, que no haya soledad. Vamos a andar para llegar. 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 Vamos a andar. Vamos a andar para llegar. Vamos a andar para llegar.
This morning we're going to be talking about liberation theology, and I want to take a moment for us to be mindful of all those who in the movement of liberation theology disappeared and were never accounted for, people who died struggling for freedom, as we light our chalice this morning. We light this chalice in the memory of courage, the courage of those who have struggled for freedom, the persistence of those who have struggled for justice, and the love of those who built beloved communities to carry on the light of hope. Come, let us worship together. So I invite you to join together in hymn 1027 in the teal hymnal, Cuando el Podré.
good to be gathered today in all the ways that we gather, those of us here in this space and those of us watching from elsewhere. I'm glad to be together today. Today feels like a really good day to be in community. And I have a story to share this morning that is adapted, you ready for this? It is adapted from a story written by Matt Meyer, who was inspired by a quote from Desmond Tutu about neutrality. And this story begins in a huge grassy meadow. Have any of us ever been somewhere where there was a large grassy space? Might have been in a yard or a field. In this meadow, there was a mouse whose name was Desmond. And Desmond played in the meadow all day long, and every night he slept right there in the meadow underneath the beautiful sky. And every day, that was what he did, but one night he woke up when it was still dark, and he realized he had a problem. Because somehow, a huge boulder had shown up right in that meadow, and it was on his tail. He was beginning to throb with pain. That might be what woke him up. And try as he might, he pulled and tugged and pulled, and he could not get his tail out from underneath that huge boulder. Desmond was stuck. Have any of us ever felt like we were stuck? Well, he kept on trying to free himself, and he couldn't. But after morning came, another animal came through the meadow, and it was a giraffe. And he said, "Oh, giraffe, please, excuse me, I'm stuck beneath this boulder. It's on my tail. Could you please just push it a few inches in that direction so that I could go free?" And the giraffe laughed. I've never heard a giraffe laugh. Have you? This giraffe laughed and said, "Silly mouse, that's not a boulder, that's an elephant." An elephant had come into the meadow and had gone to sleep. And nonetheless, Desmond said, "Well, okay, could you wake up the elephant and ask it to move just a few inches over so that I could go free?" What do you think the giraffe said? The giraffe said, "Oh, you know, in these types of situations, I feel like it's best not to get in the middle of it. I prefer neutrality." Do you think Desmond appreciated the giraffe's neutrality? Throughout the day, other animals came, and Desmond asked every one of them, "Would you please wake up the elephant and ask it to move just a few inches over in the other direction so I could go free?" And again, the animals didn't want to get in the middle of it. Until, after a while, one more animal came. It was another mouse. And Desmond said, "Oh, excuse me, hi, can you please, this elephant is on my tail, it really hurts. Could you please help me?" And the mouse said, "Of course." Turned out that mouse's name was Nelson. Nelson ran around to the other side and yelled up at the elephant up to its giant ear and said, "Excuse me, you have fallen asleep on my friend's tail. Could you move just a few inches in the other direction so he could go free?" Well, the elephant's ear was really way up there. And the elephant kind of heard a quiet voice in the distance, but not enough to pay attention to. So Nelson had another idea. He ran back to Desmond and said, "Just wait here." Desmond thought, well, where else am I going to be? And pretty soon Nelson came back with a whole group of mice. And those mice stood on one another's shoulders and scrambled up and made it all the way up until Nelson could climb up, every single one of them, up to the elephant's ear and yell, "Excuse me, you fell asleep on my friend's tail. Could you roll just a few inches in the other direction so he could go free?" Well, the elephant heard it that time. But the elephant said, "I'm really comfortable right here. Go away." Nelson was not going to be deterred. And in fact, all the other mice there with Nelson decided they were going to scramble up and help pull each other and climb up until they were all up on the elephant's shoulder, right next to its giant ear. And they all yelled, "Excuse direction so, what did they say? So he could go free. And the elephant heaved a big sigh. Can we sigh like a giant elephant? He said, I can't rest here with you making such a huge racket. Fine, if you will just stop yelling in my ear, I will roll over. And so the elephant rolled a few inches in the other direction, and what happened? Desmond went free. And he and the other mice played in the meadow every day, and Desmond was pretty careful about where he went to sleep after that. And my friends, this is a story about how we all get free together. That when one person is free, no one is truly free. And do we remember the neutrality of some of the animals? Neutrality only ever helps those who are most powerful. And may we keep that in mind as we go through our week and our days together in community. That we are powerful. We are more powerful than we know. Thank you all, and our learners and leaders who are heading to our religious exploration spaces will head out now as we sing the recessional.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Rogers. No, wait. My name is David Massey. I'm a member of the TVUC spiritual care team. We are heart-centered, deep listeners who, along with many of you, see to the caring needs of the congregation. We answer TVUC's pastoral care line 7 days a week. During the day and early evening, respond to phone and text messages as soon as we hear them. That number is in your order of service on the back page and in the weekly newsletter. Please stop by the caring table after the service, located in the fellowship hall, to sign your name to cards that will be mailed to people deserving of our good wishes. This is the time in our service when we give voice to joys and concerns in the larger community and in the congregation. I don't know that the word concern adequately describes the feelings we have about what's been happening out of D.C. in the last week. I would just say that, and I don't really have a way to describe it except that we all are feeling, or many of us, most of us perhaps, are feeling a sense of fear, rage, despair, and the only antidote to that, as the minister in the ordination service in Atlanta said yesterday, is a radical joy, a joy infused by love, and a joy that turns into action. And if you are feeling despair, there are lots of things in this church and outside this church where you can get involved. And as a friend of mine said, just do one thing to infuse love into this world. So on to the congregation. I am so delighted to welcome Don Dougal back into the sanctuary. After being gone for a number of weeks. Don, we're so glad to see you here. Is Don Horton here today? No, he's at home. Don is home, I guess, because he fell off of a ladder on New Year's Eve, suffering a compression fracture of a vertebra in his lower back. Although he suffers from some low-grade pain and has to be very careful about how he moves and what he can pick up, he is in actual physical therapy, is fairly mobile, and is healing, so keep on doing that, Don. Harry Wiersma, who suffers from 2 different forms of dementia, is now a resident at Legacy Park Health and Rehab, located in the same high-rise building that used to be Shannondale Skilled Nursing Facility on Middlebrook Pike. He is in room 324. Please visit Harry and also reach out to his wife, Natalie Levasseur, as she transitions yet again to a different relationship with her beloved. Ori and Sarah Weaver had a bit of a scare last week when Sarah's high blood pressure landed her in the hospital for monitoring. But the crisis subsided. She was released last Thursday. Ori reports that the in utero twins are developing and thriving beautifully. The family is settling into their new home, and give great thanks to Bob Grimmick and friends in getting them moved in last weekend. It was a joy for members of this congregation who had the chance to celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during King Week activities earlier this month. A special shout out to Reverend Gordon Gibson, a member of the M.L. King Commemorative Commission, who gave the invocation at the Leadership Educational Symposium. Congratulations to Reverend Juniper Meadows, who was the youth programs coordinator in this, her home church, and also a congregational intern at Oak Ridge UU Church while she was in seminary. So here's the news. Juniper not only got married early this month, but is also now the settled minister at the Second Unitarian Universalist Church of Omaha, Nebraska. We are so proud of you, Juniper. And I think the events of this past week, were very much on the minds of congregants and celebrants in 2 very special ministerial ordinations that took place yesterday. First, Father Reagan Shriver, a longtime priest in the Roman Catholic Church and a well-known gentle presence in this community through his work with Catholic Social Services and the UT College of Social Work, left the church a couple of years back, came out as gay, got married, and yesterday was ordained as a priest in the Episcopal Diocese of East Tennessee. Participating in that service was retired Episcopal Bishop Gene Robinson, the first gay bishop in the Episcopal Church in the United States. That service was all about one's authentic self, reconciliation, and love. Father Reagan said his journey of self-discovery led him to believe, and I quote, "I can be who I am and be loved just for that. Can I get an amen?" Amen. Another journey of discovery bore fruit yesterday in the ordination of our own Phoenix Bell Shelton Biggs into the UU ministry. Carolyn Rogers, Elnora Williams, and Reverend John Coffey attended the service at the UU Congregation of Atlanta, which is pastored by Reverend Taryn Strauss, who herself came of age in this church. First of all, thank you, Chloe Araldi Waters, for making sure several times over that we had the link to be able to watch the service. If you weren't there, and did not watch it online, I encourage you to go to YouTube, search for UU Congregation of Atlanta, and watch that service, especially the sermon, which was incredible and which speaks to the radical joy I spoke of a minute ago. In the ceremony, Reverend Coffey told Phoenix, "Today we celebrate your commitment to ministry and the sacred work of justice, healing, and love their part, Phoenix credited John with showing them the way. He said, quote, "It is because of Reverend John Coffey that I learned of Unitarian Universalism. When I lost hope, rejected by the church, felt I could not be religious, it was John's ministry of showing up and reminding me that there was a community when I was ready." He said, "I come to this ministry with a heart of gratitude, with a spirit that will guide me, a community behind me. I come eager to serve. I come with a deep sense of joy and justice." Amen. We find such joy in launching yet another young person into full-time ministry in the Unitarian Universalist Church. For all of these joys and concerns, as well as those held in privacy or that are unknown to us, let us join together in singing "Sending You Light." The words are printed in your order of service.
I invite you to turn in the back of your gray hymnal to responsive reading 668. And as we explore the liberation theologian tradition, I'm drawing from some of the scriptures that speak to that tradition. In the Unitarian Universalist Church, we draw wisdom from many different sources: the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Quran, New Testament, Hebrew scriptures. But today we are drawing from the wisdom that comes from the liberation theology tradition. I'll say the first words and you say the words in italics. This is from the book of James in the New Testament. "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but do not have works? Can faith save you? Go in peace, keep warm, and eat your fill." So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. So let us enter into a time of prayer, meditation, reflection with these words from Carol Meyer. May we open ourselves ever more fully to that eternal mystery which lures us onward toward life and creativity. May we find the courage to live our faith, to speak our truth, and to strive together for a world where freedom abounds and justice truly does roll down like water. May we know the fullness of love without fear and the serenity of peace without turmoil. May we hold one another in the deep and tender places with compassion, and may we grace one another by sharing our own vulnerabilities, being ever mindful of the divinity within that makes soulmates of us all. Aware of that divinity, let us enter into a time of silent meditation and reflection and worship together. Amen. I now invite you to give generously to our special cause today, the NAACP.
Marlos Nobre was a Brazilian composer who passed away this past December. And the melody of capoeira is a folk song that he knew growing up in Brazil. And the title capoeira refers to the martial art created by enslaved Africans as they prepared for revolution. And in this piece by Marlos Nobre, he combined unusual ways of using the piano and other instruments to combine this folk melody with the idea of the martial art. And the other point about capoeira is that it was disguised as a dance. So they could dance and practice their fight for freedom.
A reading from the book of Isaiah, and the prophets speak not just for themselves, but for ultimate reality. And this verse is very important in liberation theology tradition because it speaks to the importance of social justice rather than just personal spirituality. Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter, when you see the naked to clothe them, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and God will say, "Here I am." If you do away with the yoke of oppression and the pointing finger and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become noonday. The Lord will guide you always. God will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. You may remain seated for our next hymn. You can see the hymn is an insert in the order of service, Freedom Song.
I want someone to sing me a freedom song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a freedom song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a freedom song all day and all night long. Freedom, freedom, freedom. I want someone to sing me a power song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a power song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a power song all day and all night long. Power, power, power. I want someone to sing me a love song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a love song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a love song all day and all night long. Love, love, love. I want someone to sing me a healing song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a healing song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a healing song all day and all night long. Healing, healing, healing. I want someone to sing me a freedom song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a freedom song. Oh, I want someone to sing me a freedom song all day and all night long. Freedom, freedom, freedom all day and all night long. Freedom, freedom, freedom all day and all night long. Freedom, freedom, freedom.
I've been thinking a lot about the Unitarian minister, the Edward Everett Hale, this week. In 1903, he was appointed chaplain to the United States Senate, which is a big honor. And in that role, he was once asked, "Do you pray for the senators, Dr. Hale?" And he replied, "No. I look at the senators and I pray for the country." So I've been thinking about the Reverend Dr. Edward Everett Hale this week as I look at the Senate and the House of Representatives, Supreme Court, and the White House. And I have to be honest, I have been moved to pray for our country. Like many of you, I listened to the sermon preached by Bishop Marion Edgar Buddy at the prayer service as part of the inauguration festivities at the National Cathedral. She addressed her words to the incoming president, who was sitting on the front row. She said, "In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some of whom fear for their lives. The people who pick our crops and clean office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants, and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, gurdwaras, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President." It was a powerful sermon, and it took courage to preach it. And I want to honor those words, and I want to respect those words, and I want to build on those words. For we, and I think in some sense we need to go beyond those words. For we are not subjects who need to beg mercy from a sovereign. We are not supplicants that need to bow down before a throne. We are citizens in a democracy with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And even those who don't have documentation, theology and DNA evidence tell us that we are all members of one family. We are one. And as the theologians of the early Unitarian Church said, there is a divine spark in every person. There's a holy light that shines in everyone. Some of us may serve in the Senate. Some of us may serve in the House of Representatives. Some of us may serve on the Supreme Court. Some of us may serve in the White House, but every one of us deserves to be treated with respect. Every single person. Honor the worth and dignity of every person. And this goes to the heart of what I want to speak about this morning on the topic of liberation theology. For liberation theology goes beyond acts of mercy and demands acts of justice. Liberation theology could be summed up in the words of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who he said, "We are not simply to bandage the wounds of victims beneath the wheels of injustice, but to drive a spike through that wheel." The founder of the School of Liberation Theology is Gustave Gutierrez, and he wrote a book in 1973, A Theology of Liberation, which any serious student of theology would have read. And I read it for the first time in seminary, and I've gone back to it over and over again over my decades in the ministry. It is a timeless classic. Now, Gustave Gutierrez died back in October, which is how I came to the idea that we needed a refresher course on liberation theology. He was born in Peru and educated in Chile, and his theology was grounded in that radical Catholic tradition that so often runs afoul of the hierarchy of the church, which can get in there cozy with wealth and power, with the big donors and the magnates of any given culture, sort of a thorn in the side of the tradition. Liberation theology aspires to be a voice for the voiceless and a champion of the powerless to the powerful. Now, James Baldwin once wrote words that I think describe, quite succinctly the spirit of liberation theology. He said, "I conceive of God, in fact, as a means of liberation, not a means of control of others." That bears repeating. He said, "I conceive of God, in fact, as a means of liberation and not a means of control of others." These words are worth hearing over and over again, for too often those in political power like to use the name of God to oppress people, to tyrannize people, to dominate people, to strike fear into people, to make people want to beg for mercy. Whereas one of the principles of the American Revolution, one of the things that the founders often said, it's sort of a maxim, the God who gave us life gave us liberty at the same time. That is liberation theology. We were given liberty at the same time we were given life. Founding fathers didn't live up to that, but liberation theology challenges us all to live up to that. Now, one of the important texts of liberation theology comes from the book of Isaiah. We read it earlier, but I just want to drive home how radical it is, because it's a condemnation of personal piety. And religion says it's all about prayer and fasting and, and your personal spiritual journey. Isaiah condemns that, not only criticizes it, not only, critiques it, but condemns it and says that piety is no substitute for social action. Prayer and fasting is no substitution for corrective action. The prophet proclaims, "Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not turn away from your own flesh and blood?" Liberation theology argues that we need to give preferential attention to the poor, for they are the people most likely to be treated as non-persons, as non-entities, most likely to be overrun by the powerful, most likely to be ignored in policy discussions, abandoned, and disrespected. Liberation theology does not overlook the complexities of the problems of poverty or the causes of poverty, but it does say that we should make eliminating poverty our first order of business. Liberation theology reminds us to ground our thinking and our living in respect for those who labor in the field, those who work in the poultry and meat packing plants, those who work the late night shifts in hospitals, those who wash dishes and do other jobs behind the scenes. Liberation theology says, with the book of Proverbs, anyone who sneers at the poor insults their maker. Archbishop Hilda Camara of Brazil was speaking about liberation theology when he said, the body has a right hand and a left hand, but the heart is a little to the left. The heart is a little to the left. And that is central to liberation theology. Now, most liberation theology, their politics would be to the left of the contemporary or even the historic Democratic Party. And liberation theology would critique FDR's New Deal as little, too late, and would condemn American foreign policy that has too often put national interest above human rights and decimated communities in Central and South America, leading to the mothers of the disappeared looking for their children who have just disappeared for speaking out for justice and speaking out for human rights. And yet liberation theologians would agree with the words that are engraved on the FDR Memorial in Washington. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have little. Or as Mahatma Gandhi used to say, society should be judged by how it treats its weakest members. I've always wanted to go to a presidential inauguration. I figured the pageantry of that would be pretty amazing to participate in. And now I know what it takes. $1 million donated to the inauguration fund. That'll get you some good seats. Of course, the oligarchy did not begin with this president and is not likely to end with this president. There is a materialistic version of the golden rule that it is much older than this administration, much older than probably every administration in this country. And that version of the golden rule is those with the gold rule. Those with the gold rule. And we're going to see that maxim lived out in the days to come. It's been in place before, but we're going to see it in new and unexpected ways, and just as we are all seeing it today. However, liberation theology says, look for God in the least, the last, the lost, and the left out. That's where the power is. We are taught, Jesus taught that the greatest commandment was love God, and the next was love your neighbor as yourself. And liberation theology says it's not enough to love God or your neighbor. We have to love God through our neighbors. To see the divine spark in every person, to see that holy light that shines in every person. We love God by loving our neighbor. We find communion with God by finding communion with others. We find solidarity with God by finding solidarity with each other. Liberation theology condemns religious ceremonies that do not advance the cause of social justice, condemns rituals when they don't help those who need help the most. The Hebrew prophets don't speak for themselves, but offer themselves as channels for the divine voice. And we hear in the prophet Amos words condemning practices that are common in religious traditions, condemning conventional religiosity. The prophet Amos declares, I despise your feasts. Think of that. I despise your feasts. And take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. The peace offerings of your fattened animals, I will not look at them. Take away the noise of your songs, to the melody of your harps I will not listen, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Wow. Wow. Do the people in power want to hear that? No. Liberation theology tells us that the church must be a voice for the voiceless, to speak out for the powerless to the powerful, an institution of social criticism and radical social action. So the world needs the church now more than ever. The world needs the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church now more than ever. In liberation theology, they talk about a base community, and a congregation can be a base community, and where if the world is not for human rights, then the church will be. And if the world's for discrimination, we're going to be the voice that speaks out against discrimination. We have a mission. Now more than ever, the world needs our voice. And the Liberation theology has given birth to many different traditions. It started in Central South America and is rooted in those struggles for justice, but it's given birth to Black liberation theology, Native American liberation theology, Qweer Liberation Theology, Feminist and Womanist Liberation Theologies, and many, many more. In the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, we have many different theologies present on every Sunday morning, and we celebrate religious freedom, that people should be free to follow the dictates of their own conscience in forming their own religious faith. We believe that spirituality is meant to be an instrument of liberation, not a means of social control. That is something we all agree on. Earlier this week, I came into my office and found a gift. It's a sweatshirt, which unfortunately I left at home, but it had this picture on it. I don't know if you can see it. It's Jet Pig. Have any of y'all seen Jet Pig? It's a jet with a pig with jet wings, and it has a heart that says love. Well, this is a superhero of sorts, but is meant to be a mnemonic device to help teach our young people about the values that are core to the Unitarian Universalist Church: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. G-E-T-P-I-G, Jet Pig. With love at the center of all we do. I tell you that because those are the values that are going to get us through the days to come. Those are the values that will guide us and inform our own liberation theology. Because when we look at the Senate, when we look at the Congress, when we look at the Supreme Court, when we look at the White House, we may be moved to pray, but we know thoughts and prayers are not enough. I invite you to say those words. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. Because as Frederick Douglass said, he was a slave in Maryland and he prayed for his freedom, and one day he ran away and he was able to find freedom in the North. And he said, when I lived in Maryland, I used to pray for my freedom every day, but my prayers weren't answered until I learned to pray with my feet. So in the days to come, let us learn to pray with our feet, because St. Teresa said, God has no hands but our hands to do the work of healing. No eyes but our eyes to see the work that needs to be done. No feet but our feet with which to walk about doing good. So we need to learn how to pray with our hands, pray with our eyes, pray with our brains, pray with our feet, because... So let us live into our values. Let us make our actions and our life choices our prayers. So be it. We are going to need each other. We are going to need each other. In that spirit, let's join in our closing hymn.
Your part is, we're gonna strive.
We're gonna strive.
We're gonna strive.
We're gonna strive.
Till we arrive.
Till we arrive.
We're gonna strive.
We're gonna strive.
Till we arrive.
Till we arrive.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. We're gonna strive in verse and vibrant life.
Till we arrive.
Building up a home.
We're gonna strive.
Where bread and truth abide.
Till we arrive.
Ending defeating all selfishness,
We're gonna strive
so that in turn
till we arrive.
friendship revives,
We're gonna strive
bringing down the powerful,
till we arrive.
lifting up the weary,
We're gonna strive
adding everyone in
till we arrive.
with all the colorful flags
We're gonna strive
woven together,
till we arrive.
so there's no loneliness.
We're gonna strive till we arrive. We're gonna strive till we arrive.
We're gonna
We're gonna strive.
Prophetic Church, the world awaits your liberating ministry. That's Liberation Theology. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free. As our last act of worship, I invite you to turn and greet your neighbors.